one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Here.
Mr. Franco.
I am here.
And Mr. Cabrera.
I am here. Compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The notice requirements have been satisfied as to time, place, and date of holding said meeting by posting notice on the bulletin board here in Borough Hall and by mailing and emailing same to the Herald of Cape May County on October 4th, 2023, and the Press of Atlantic City on December 13th, 2023. In the event of an emergency, your emergency exit is the way you came in, our front left, your back right, or our front right, your front left, just by the American flag. A couple quick announcements. This meeting is being shown live. I want to do a quick audio and visual check. Sound check, 1, 2, 3, 4, good to go. All right, meeting is being shown live here today on the Borough's YouTube channel, which is also streaming on the Borough's Facebook page as well. If you have a question, you're more than welcome, and I'm speaking to those folks that are watching remotely. You're going to use the conference line at 888-363-4734, and when prompted, you're going to enter the access code 9699020, followed by the pound or the hashtag. If you watch the recorded version of this meeting, you're more than welcome to ask any questions or comments by emailing our clerk at clerk@wildwoodcrest.org or by phoning her at 609-729-8040. I believe we have 2 ordinances on for adoption and 3 on for introduction.
That is correct. The first is ordinance number 1422. It's for Chapter 36, the floodplain management.
Motions that ordinance 1422 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1422 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1422 reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of the Board of Commissioners of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, amending the code of the Borough of Wildwood Crest to repeal Chapter 36, flood prevention of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, and to adopt a new Chapter 36 entitled Floodplain Management Regulations, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, and providing for severability and an effective date.
Motion that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1422.
Second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1422 now be held.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Floor is open. We'll start with anybody here in the audience for public comments on ordinance number 1422. Conference line, anybody on the call have any questions or comments on ordinance number 1422? Hearing none,
Motion that a public hearing on ordinance number 1422 now be closed.
I'll second it.
it has been moved and seconded that public hearing on ordinance number 1422 now be closed.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that ordinance number 1422 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1422 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have ordinance 1423 regarding Chapter 85, land development fees.
Motion that ordinance number 1423 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1423 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1423 reads as follows. An ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 85 of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, entitled Land Development, Article 18, Section 85-139, Fees, approving and confirming rates and fees for guarantees, inspections, and off-tract improvements.
Motion that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1423.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1423 now be held.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Floor is open for public comment on ordinance number 1423. We'll start with anybody here in the audience. Hearing none, we'll go to the conference line. Any public comments on ordinance number 1423? Hearing none,
Motion that a public hearing on ordinance number 1423 now be closed.
Second?
it has been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1423 now be closed.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that ordinance number 1423 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1423 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is ordinance 1424, and it reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood Crest amending and supplementing Chapter 47, parking meters of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, and to consolidate parking meter zones to a single paid parking zone, and to further define and regulate the use of web-based parking systems.
Motion that ordinance number 1424 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on March 6, 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1424 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on March 6, 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have ordinance 1425, and it reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood Crest amending and supplementing Article 11 of Chapter 79, Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood Crest to regulate publicly accessible electric vehicle charging stations.
Motion that ordinance number 1425 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on March 6, 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1425 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on March 6, 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Lastly, we have ordinance 1426, and it reads as follows. An ordinance to establish Cap Bank for calendar year 2024 pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Motion that ordinance number 1426 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on March 6, 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1426 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on March 6, 2024 at 9:30 a.m.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have the resolutions. The first is authorizing introduction of local budget of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, County of Cape May, New Jersey, for the fiscal year 2024.
I'll motion?
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing certification of compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's enforcement guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records in employment decisions under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Motion?
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing an agreement between the Borough of Wildwood Crest and the Cape May County Municipal Utilities Authority to review, sign, and submit the 2023 Annual Recycling Tonnage Report.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing transfer of title of a 2013 Ford Police Interceptor Explorer to the Cape May County Police Academy.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing expenditure to purchase installation of roofs to Borough Buildings contract under the ESC NJ Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Public Works Department.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Just a amendment to this for this one. This is actually for the Crest Pier roof and the pool roof.
I believe that's in the
It's in the body
resolution.
of the resolution.
Right, it's for those, the title just said public, for the buildings.
Okay, got it. I vote yes.
Okay, very good. Next is authorizing acceptance of a donation of a stair chair.
Motion.
I will second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing approval to submit a grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of Stockton Road from Seaview Avenue to the beach.
Motion.
I will second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing certain appropriation transfers.
Motion.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolutions be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I'll do the next three by consent. It is authorizing release of escrow funds for permit number SO 22-1002 in the amount of $52.50. The next is SO 22-1203 in the amount of $727.50. The last one's SO 22-0812 in the amount of $165.
All motion by consensus.
I will second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolutions be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing refund of a dumpster fee made payable to KHNJ Ventures LLC in the amount of $390.
Motion.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing Borough Engineer work order for 2024 road resurfacing program at the not-to-exceed sum of $20,000.
Motion.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing Borough Engineer work order for fiscal year 2023 NJDOT Municipal Aid Reconstruction of Orchid Road, additional services, resurfacing of Ocean Avenue at the not-to-exceed sum of $6,000.
Motion.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing expenditure to purchase installation of one ETS wafer UV system to Borough Pool contract to mainline commercial pools at the not-to-exceed sum of $33,678.58 for the Public Works Department.
Motion.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing approval of change order number 2, final, and accepting work performed and authorizing release of performance bond and accepting maintenance bond for Beach Street End Public Access Improvements Phase 2, decreasing the contract amount by $42,810.39 for a revised contract amount of $3,208,106.31.
Motion.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing award of special service contract for trademark patents to Laura Magadoff of Nissenbaum Law Group for calendar year 2024.
Motion that.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing approval of change order number 1, fiscal year 2023, NJDOT Municipal Aid Reconstruction of Orchid Road to reflect contract extension of 7 days and resurfacing of Ocean Avenue from Rambler Road to Farragut Road at the not-to-exceed sum of $92,970.
Motion.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Lastly is acknowledging and approving the fiscal year 2024 Local Recreation Improvement Grant and the proposed plan or design for improvements to Scoop Taylor Park.
Motion?
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that all reports received from the court administrator, chief financial officer, tax collector, chief of police, supervisor for the recreation department, construction official, emergency services coordinator for the EMS, and the Wildwood Crest Volunteer Fire Company chief for the month ending January 31st, 2024 be accepted as presented.
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded that all reports received from the court administrator, chief financial officer, tax collector, chief of police, supervisor for the recreation department, construction official, emergency services coordinator for the EMS, and the Wildwood Crest Volunteer Fire Company chief for the month ending January 31st, 2024 be accepted as presented. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that all minutes from the commission's meetings dated January 24, 2024, and February 7th, 2024 be approved as presented.
Second that?
It has been moved and seconded that all minutes from the commission meetings dated January 24th and February 7th, 2024 be approved as presented. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Thank you, Trish.
You
Thanks, Jeff.
are welcome.
Okay, under correspondence, we have nothing listed, but I do believe we have some public safety reports this evening. We'll start with Chief Lloyd.
Good evening. I'll be brief. Just gonna hit on a couple points from my report to the Commissioner of Public Safety. Okay, for the month of January, we responded to 1,194 calls, 95 calls for service. Conducted 163 criminal investigations. We responded to 295 service calls, which include alarms, citizen assist, fires, medical assist, school-related activities, and utility complaints. We conducted 110 motor vehicle stops and issued 26 motor vehicle summonses. We conducted 294 property checks, 322 training hours, had 7 arrests and 2 DWIs. So that'll do it unless the governing body has questions or the public.
None?
I'm fine, Chief. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Krebs?
Thank you, Mayor, governing body, the residents. First thing is, I want to do for my report is I want to introduce Joseph and Gina Catanella. Those are the family that donated that stair chair. They used it for their family. Fortunately, they had a passing, and they had it sitting there. They got in contact with Mike Neal, who then suggested bringing it to us, which we did. So, huge thank you to the Catanellas for their donation.
I'd like to just say that in our future presentations or our meetings, we'll recognize you formally. And once again, thank you for allowing us to use the chair. It will help the EMS immensely.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thank you. Ours is 70 calls for service for the month of January, 22 transports, 9 refusals, 2 public assists, motor vehicle accidents and fire standbys, 28, carbon monoxide alarms, 2, medical calls or no calls for action were 7. We responded 4 times to the city of Wildwood, 5 to Lower Township, and we received 1 from the city of Wildwood. Continuing on our report, we had 4 members, EMTs Lisa Stiltner, Michael Chu, Zachary DeVoe, and Kirby Stiltner, attend the Active Shooter Incident Management Basic Course, ASIM-B, which is presented by the Office of Homeland Security. And our department will be participating in the Remember Everyone Deployed. This is Red Fridays, what it's known for. This display of red shirts is set for all Fridays. And the RED organization was created to show solidarity and provide support to our deployed service members as well as our veterans. So that's all I have. Anybody else in the public has anything? Everybody?
Thanks, Bill.
All good. Thanks, Bill. All right, a little early for the beach patrol report, so, we're gonna go.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. All right, we're gonna go with our first round of public comment before we get into the administrators and the engineers report. If anybody has any public comment, you're gonna come on up here to the podium. We do not need your address, all we need is your name. We'll start with anybody here in the audience.
Can it be on any subject?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Garrick, and I just had a question about the Board of Commissioners, if you are going to, in light of developments from the last planning zoning meeting, request that the master plan now be revisited, since it was just revisited again in 2022, nothing changed, yet there were approvals made that kind of slammed the view corridor, which is still set in place in the master plan's most recent review in June of '22.
Okay, just to make sure I understand the question is there any plans for the Borough of Wildwood Crest to revisit the master plan for either in terms of a reassessment?
Yeah, because the planning board has basically thrown it out with their approval that they made at the last meeting for
Alright, so-
Mahalo, if anybody isn't familiar with that.
All right, so to answer your question, so there's been no discussion from the governing body to explore another reassessment of the master plan. The planning board, separate from this body, has the ability could make a recommendation to the governing body, which I don't believe we've received that yet, if in fact they're even planning on doing that. But the answer to your question is no, there is no plans at this particular time.
Okay, I would appreciate it if the board could, take a look at that themselves and decide if they'd like to make a suggestion, if that's appropriate, to the Planning and Zoning Board. What they just approved is going to create an onslaught of additional hotels to do the same thing. It's going to still create very poor parking conditions. It's 6 rooms, and they're going to build a gigantic wall across Ocean Avenue for 6 rooms, different from what's there now to what has been approved. In addition, there was no testimony in any of these planning meetings from any engineer that states that they could not go up, which has been accepted. There's been a lot of leeway, the heights have been raised. Everybody just on the board just seemed to take the word of the applicant. I don't understand that. No justification for that. Another question I have is, I understand it's a volunteer board, and I truly appreciate everybody's time. Is there a way to try and replace board members other than a board member just choosing to not participate any longer?
Is there a way to replace board members?
Yes.
I'm sure there is. I'm not sure when you're dealing with volunteer board members, it's a delicate situation that would have to be handled with tact, and I would think.
I understand.
With some level of consideration for the reasons why they would be asked not to serve on the board any longer. We've never been in that position before, but certainly if there's a warrant of a need for it, then I'm sure it's something that the board can look into. But there's nothing in terms of an ordinance that would require one. Usually, most times, it's at the end of one's term, or life circumstances change, they move away, or they don't have the time to do it, they step down, and then the governing body would appoint them at that particular time.
Okay, I was very disappointed in the amount of board members that showed up for that meeting as well. I understand it's volunteer and people have lives, but this has been an issue that's been going on literally for many years. And it would have been nice if we could have had the whole board there to hear this case and be able to make a decision. If this is just a general question, if you know the answer, are the board members supposed to act in the best interest of the residents in the borough? Is that how that's set up? Is that what they're told when they join the board?
So I think that's a loaded question, but nonetheless, I think that what the board, again, separate group of volunteers, this board appoints, this board does participate to a degree, but, you know, oftentimes depending on the variances and whatever, could be conflicts, there's things that the governing body members can't even participate on. But they usually have to, when they hear testimony from both sides of a project, they have to weigh out if the detriments or the benefits are good or bad for the community. And then based on that, then they make they vote. So they have to weigh out the testimony, and then they have to make a decision what they believe individually is best for the community, based on.
But their own, you know, personal situation has no bearing on any case that they hear, is that correct?
They would have to recuse themselves if that's what you're saying, if there was an issue with a conflict. I don't know, is that what you're asking?
No, just a board member's personal situation. Not that they have anything to do with it, but, you know, their own personal situation can sometimes dictate how a person reacts to different things.
Hey, can I help you out with that a little bit?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, two things. One, I wanted to address the amount of people that showed up to the meeting. Years ago, I was one of those board members and volunteered. I am not any longer on that board. But I know for a fact that that board meeting was moved. So that kind of created some issues, you know, for people to attend. I'm not making excuses for anybody, but I wanted to give you the facts of that. Secondly, you're asking if we make decisions based on our personal opinions. To answer that, I always did, when I was on that board, I went to school. I had to go and take a test and learn all I could. I asked a lot of questions, but I know that our board, in my mind, in my heart, are making decisions that are good for all, not just for one. So where you're leading us, I feel, is kind of down a path that I don't feel comfortable with. I hope that all our board members, and even us up here, are making decisions that are good for our community. I don't make a decision up here that benefits me or my family. You know, I make decisions up here that benefit our community. But I understand what you're saying.
I'm not going in the direction where you folks think this is heading. It's just
Okay.
a simple question that we all have, you know, a life that we've lived. We have certain things that make our own decisions. My question is that supposed to be part of this factor, that individual's own experiences, or is it strictly based on the testimony that was heard and the witnesses that spoke and, you know?
Yeah, may I chime in just a little bit? So, like, the board members that serve on these boards, zoning, planning boards, we have a merged board.
Correct.
There are certain groups, they all have to be a resident of the municipality, except for one who has to be an employee of the municipality. They serve on that board for the very exact reason that they bring their personal knowledge of the community to the board. And yes, they use that, they rely on that, they're members of the community. So boards are given deference by the court in their decisions because of those reasons. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, that's what they do, and that's their role. They sit as a quasi-judicial body. They have to apply the law, the municipal land use law, to the facts which they hear. They can't just do what they want. If a applicant comes in and satisfies the criteria, as you heard the mayor mention, there's negative criteria that have to be satisfied, there's purposes of zoning that have to be advanced, there are special reasons that have to be advanced. Among those are the general welfare benefit to the community. If an applicant satisfies that criteria and the board finds that, they have to grant the variance, because the decision of the board can be appealed as well. We had one appeal with Mohala. The decision of the board was appealed. If they turn it down, they can also be appealed by the applicant. And they better have the appropriate facts, findings, and reasoning in the record to justify that denial. So they're in a position to judge all these factors, all the testimony, take this all to account, and utilizing their knowledge of the community, and make the decision. So,
So are they bound then to follow, for example, the master plan as it's been written and reviewed?
They follow the zoning ordinance. That's chapter 85 in the municipal code.
Okay.
And now there's purposes, there's more general sort of things that they're supposed to achieve. Purposes of zones, like a commercial zone, one of the purposes would be to develop the economic community. Purposes of residential might be to develop single-family homes, things of that nature. But as to the code, as to the physical attributes of how things are built, the distances, the side yard setback, front yard setback, building height, they're governed by the code. They can deviate, that's what a variance is. It's a variance, it's a deviation from the ordinance if they satisfy, if the applicant satisfies that criteria. So they're not bound. These boards, the planning board exercises zoning board responsibilities, and the zoning board is the zoning board of adjustment. They make adjustments, they grant variances. So there's the concept of bound really, they're not so much bound, that's their role, is to hear these cases and grant variances where they're justified.
So what is the purpose then of the master plan? Just so we can
That's
say
a
we have a
general sort
document?
of, that's a general sort of goal. If you want to know what the ordinance is, you can look at chapter 85 in the Borough Code.
Okay, so this has gone on, like I said, for many, many years. Every meeting, there has been one individual, one resident that spoke sort of in favor of this project. Everyone else that spoke was against it. Now, I'm not counting the Mahalo employees that spoke in favor of this. I've discounted that. There's a little bit of bias involved. So I don't see how this board could approve this project, a massive wall that goes up in an already congested area of the crest. There's no park on either side here where you can still see. I've lived down here summers all my life, been a permanent resident for the last 5 years. I can't believe they approved this. It makes no sense. There was so much testimony that this project fell short in so many areas, and it was still approved. I just don't understand it. If there's anything that the Board of Commissioners can do to have the board then, the planning board, revisit the master plan, make changes, because otherwise this is going to be a nightmare for the north end of the crest, from Rambler north. This is going to be a complete mess because all of these hotels are going to want to do this, whether they have a park in front of them or not, which still lets people have a view. It's just wrong. It's absolutely wrong. So, thank you.
Some of you know me, I'm Jane Reynolds, and believe it or not, I'm a very new member of the planning board. And as a new member of the planning board, I don't probably have a lot to say, but I was very upset that the planning board day was moved on this particular issue. And I studied it, I researched
Ms.
it.
Reynolds, are you a member of the Wildwood Crest Planning
Yes.
Board?
Yes,
Well, I caution you to comment on an application that could be appealed.
I'm hoping it's appealed, that's why I'm here,
well,
to ask for an appeal. I understand we have
okay,
10
well, it's-
days.
Ma'am, it's really, I'd caution you to just not discuss the application.
I won't
don't-
discuss the application. I just want to discuss that I just
Well,
wanted.
the right to appeal does not lie within this body. The right to appeal
Okay,
lies
I have a
with,
question. Does the right to appeal apply to the general members who live in this community?
anyone that is a party in interest can appeal the application.
Okay, from
Which
what
is
I,
essentially anyone that, you don't even have to be a resident of
okay,
the borough. You could be a business owner and live someplace else.
right, well,
You'd
from
you'd
what I
have to meet that
understand it,
criteria.
from what I understand it, you have to make the appeal in 10 days. Are you familiar with that ruling?
No, it's not 10 days. It's 45 days from when the resolution is published in a newspaper. That's the appeal period.
Okay. I
And
just.
I understand this was already appealed one time prior, a prior
Yes,
approval,
this was the second time.
which was reviewed by the Superior Court, and I don't believe the decision of the board was overturned at that juncture either, so.
It was, I'm not saying that it was, sir, I'm just saying that resolved on its own, but this time, I just don't feel that there was adequate representation of the board. As a board member, because the day was changed, I wasn't able to be there, I would have made a completely different vote, and I feel that the general public doesn't know everything. I just spoke to some of my neighbors in my community, they didn't even know about it. Something this big that sets a precedent in our town, I feel needs to be
Ma'am,
addressed.
I caution you again.
I'm
As
done
to my
saying
knowledge, the
let's
board
just
would
ask
not
the
have
question.
jurisdiction to hear the case if it wasn't properly noticed as required by law. That is a mailing to everyone within 200 feet and a publication in a newspaper that's circulated within the community or the county. So to my knowledge, that was done. I have no reason to believe that that was not done. So the notice that was required to be given was given, as far as I understand. So
Okay,
to suggest that something was
I
not
think
done
I
and
think
people
what
didn't
people
know.
miss in this project is the magnitude of it and the precedent that's being set, that's all I'll say.
There's no
That is
precedent set in the municipal land use law. Each application stands on its own merits. So there shouldn't be a concern that because it was done here, it necessarily then has to be done
No,
in
not
another
has
place.
to
That-
be.
Right, that's not the case.
Not has to be, but can be, because
Well,
the
anything
precedent
can,
has been
right.
set.
If-
I mean, if I have, you know what, I ran into this in my own little barrel, in my own little house, when I wanted a pool, okay? And I was told you can't have a pool because you're an attached home condo, and there's X number of square footage that have to remain, and blah, blah, blah. And if you get a pool, your neighbor can't get a pool. So I started driving around my little neighborhood and found out that every little condo attached like me has 2 pools in their backyard. And I said, hey, if you did for one, you should do for the other, because you set a precedent. And that's what the word means. You set a precedent. And guess what? I got my pool because I was legally able to come and hear and say, hey, you set a precedent. Okay, that's why we have codes, that's why we have rules, and they need to be followed. I'm just saying that I don't think the general public was aware of the enormity of the project. And I'm not saying anything else because I don't want to violate anybody's principles here, but if I could personally file an appeal against the board of which I serve, I would, because I feel that there was not enough representation. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, anybody else?
Good evening, George Pulowski, I'll be a little more specific, from the Compass Motel to tie into Michael, who just spoke. She hit a lot of the points that I wanted to hit. This is it's kind of tough to even start, but I guess, so we're all in agreement that the planning board is to serve the community, is that correct? Right, fair to say, generally speaking?
I would hope.
Yeah, so, I mean, Mr. Shep, is no secret, you're the neighbor, we see you walking around. Everything you said today, I mean, I missed the first part, it was very much so for the community. Mr. Mayor, you were there in June or April for the previous, a lot of great things serving on that board. Mr. Franco, you recused yourself.
Conflicted out, yes.
Hmm?
I'm also a neighbor of yours, and I'm conflicted
I
out.
actually wasn't ever sure, I apologize. Like, really close?
Yeah, very.
May I ask where, just out of curiosity? I don't know.
Where I live,
Yeah, just, which street?
You shouldn't,
No. Either way,
you shouldn't do that.
I'm sorry, I wasn't stalking.
Yeah.
The whole point is, we had 13 people come out. And we can be fair, because the model had, X the first time, maybe 2 of them, employees and such, but, I mean, I don't know Mike, I just met him here. There's a couple people in the room that I recognize faces, that my brother and I haven't pursued, they just genuinely are concerned. And 13 people came out, and the 7 board members here, not all of them, but some, just basically discarded that. Discarded people of the community, and they just didn't listen. Our professional planners, some top of their fields, sat right here in this row. And they explained how this is just some aspects of this are a bad idea. Straight up bad idea, parking is the bad idea, for example. The view corridor wasn't even considered by the board, even though it's not even the master plan, but also is part of the zoning. it's in the zoning chart, I mean, the list of variances was huge, but either way, it's still, it's a zoning thing, and there wasn't a reason to really need that, especially for 6 rooms. And I don't wanna continue, I know we're all tired of hearing about it, but it's important to say, there wasn't even a reason to ask for these things or to grant them. After the professionals explained why, and legally why it's a bad idea, from a safety standpoint why it's a bad idea. And here we are again talking about community. The decision of the planning board, if it holds up, because likely you guys know how it's been before, likely we're looking at some sort of a legal argument later, appeals and such, forcing community out of here. Because his wife next door has been here for her whole family going back almost 6 decades. We've been here almost 2 decades. We don't want to sit behind the wall. We don't want to have parking issues, valleys zipping up or down our street. It's just the reality. And I mean, there needs some solace, some closure on how this board has basically discarded handouts, discarded public comment, and to Michael's point, how to maybe replace some of them because it just wasn't done correctly. I know no one unfortunately was in this the whole board wasn't there, so I understand you guys don't know the specifics maybe, but that's how it happened. I mean, people spoke and were discarded. I believe at one point someone said, parking wise, we'll figure it out. One of the board members, they'll figure it out. It can't, so the ratio is 1.2 to 1 for those who might not know, but it got just jumped to 1 to 1 because that's the standard. We're going back to the 1960s as far as precedent leading to why this 1 to 1 was okay. And all of a sudden they'll figure it out, was what I heard. And then one member told a story about how, I think it was the Big Blue Hotel in Black and it was the Summer Sands Hotel on the other side of the Coronado. They built out. That Summer Sands is gone because the Coronado built out. This is going back probably 15, 20 years, but that's just what's probably going to happen here. And congestion. I know the borough wants hotel units to stick around. We don't want to see condos. But it's just not, giving 6 units across the street is just kind of really hurting the other 80. I'm not speaking for anyone else, but speaking for our block. So is there anything, that can be done? The discussions that could be had? Because I feel like we didn't follow protocol last week.
So as far as the protocol is concerned, that's the question. The point is that the borough planning board and or the borough, you're saying, did not follow protocol.
I think what you're asking is to stop this. And Mayor, again, I'm sure that'll be challenged in court if the board didn't follow the protocol. The remedy is to appeal it to the Superior Court. Superior Court will look at the record and see if everything was done correctly and if there's enough evidence in the record to substantiate the decision that the board made, and that's the process that would have to be followed.
Okay.
It's not in, what I'm saying is it's not in the hands of the governing body.
Understood. So I guess to the point, so your opinion is that the protocol wasn't followed. We don't have any specific knowledge, at least to this point in time. We can certainly look into it, but I think that, at the end of the day, your question, our response is, in the event there is an appeal or whatever would potentially happen, we're not gonna be able to say too much because we are basically representing the borough of Wildwood Crest. So I think everyone appreciates that and understands that. So I'll certainly take in all the points, as far as the master plan. I heard the master plan being revisited is one of the concerns. I heard that, what can the borough do for potential removal. Those are basically the 2 main points, and then everything else I think was you guys, you all offering your opinion as to how you felt about the decision made last week. Correct?
That would be one way to sum that up, and I give you that one that's kind of fairly accurate because they are opinions. But is there anything that can be done before this goes to resolution? Because what we're going to have, and this is a question that's more tight, we're going to have the appeal period, which is going to take the 45 days that Mr. Galzunas had mentioned, which we're unfortunately very familiar with. And then it's going to have this eyesore, which I explained to the planning board rather, that was caused by the developer prematurely. So we're going to have this eyesore in the heart of the north end of Wildwood Crest for really no reason. When it's kind of sad we can't figure this out in house a little bit more. I feel like we're community, and I I guess the short answer is gonna be no, I assume, but I just wanted to voice that opinion of myself, my family, friends, neighbors, and many others. That we're gonna be looking, it's just unfortunate that that building has to stand the way it is, all because there are 6 units. 6 units were demanded, and not to mention that it just kept going down and down and worked backwards, but I'm not gonna bore you guys anymore, but I mean, I'm sure you guys feel my pain, my brother's pain, but anything that we could do, and I don't think Michael wants to change the plan, the master plan, because it's a beautiful master plan. We're one of the last communities on the Jersey Shore that hasn't been violated with overdevelopment. I think we can agree on that. We all know how much, I've gone all the way up to Sandy Hook, so I've seen a lot of them, and they're, even going south, Ocean City, Maryland's and all the world, they're very developed. We have a really cool thing here, and the mayor had said, we don't even have the Little League field, the library lot, we don't have any of that. We just have cement in RP now, so. I thank you guys very much for your time, and sorry, it's a long list. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Paul Pulaski. I'm not sure if he received an answer, but does the Board of Commissioners have any kind of authority to stop this resolution from moving forward?
No. That simple answer is no.
Okay. So, just to reiterate further, I think the purposes of zoning and planning in the Crest is to preserve hotels and motels. It's these kind of approvals that make them disappear. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, while I'm here, I think I'd like to propose something.
Me,
Yeah,
I'm
for
Joe
the record.
Catanella, sorry.
for the record.
I'd like to propose something that it's nor an opinion for or against the project that we're talking about. It is something that we can learn as a community, and that is never to allow any type of demolition of anything until a new plan and a new permit is resolved and in place. The notion that that place has been vacant and an eyesore and a safety hazard for 4 years is not acceptable. I think we can move forward, we can learn from this and say at this point, going forward, whatever you have to do to abide by a new law to say, hey, you cannot demo anything until your new permit is in place. And then if something gets revealed during the construction project that wasn't revealed during the permitting process, like structural issue or something like that, you could revisit it at that time. But for the most part, to have this happen to us as a community is not right. And that's the part, and at the point as you do that, there's a damages clause that you gotta pay, like an exorbitant $5,000 a day or something like that, for every time that you're sitting there vacant. There's gotta be pain associated to that, because it's been a pain for everybody who lives in the Crest, regardless how close proximity. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.
I think, just a comment, I'm gonna go from memory here, so don't quote me on this. I think it was, the project was approved, then it was appealed, I think that's probably what happened 4 or 5 years ago when that all happened. I think it was originally approved, I think there was an appeal, I think it was heard by the court, and then it stopped during that period of time, and I think that's what caused it to be where it's at now today. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that.
Well, yeah, if that's the case, what was approved?
Yeah.
Was it approved to just renovate the way it was? And they're gonna change, if they needed a variance, then no permit,
Yeah.
then that's it.
To
You
your
gotta
point
have
would be,
a damage.
so after the appeal period, then you can probably start, after
Yeah.
make sure there's no other issues. Gotcha.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Would you like me to step back up to give him some clarity?
Sure, go ahead.
So what had happened is, Mahalo, who's an experienced developer, demolished the property before receiving permits. They came before the planning board March of 2020. Okay, they actually lied to the board, claiming they didn't need a CAFR permit. Anyone at the shore knows you need CAFR permits to do anything. CAFR did not approve their project, which deemed the application null and void. They had to come back before the board. Here we are today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Anybody on the conference line have any public comments? All right, we're gonna move right to the administrator's report. Constance?
Thank you. I'll try to keep it brief. Beach bump outs, Rambler and North. This project was awarded to South State. A pre-construction meeting was held on February 15th. This is the third phase of beach entrance improvements and will address the beach entrances north of Rambler to include foot showers, benches, and widened beach entrance ways. Work is expected to commence on March 4th, and it will be completed in late May. There's a 100-day period of construction for this project. This project was previously permitted by DOT, so we have all of our permits in place for this to occur. The Crest Arts Pavilion, as all of you know, there's a lot of exterior work being done there. This project is mostly funded by the Cape May County Open Spaces Board and is expected to be completed by mid-May. Chavone Construction is coordinating with Bryan Electric and met on site this morning at 8 a.m. to review the installation of 2 EV fast chargers that will be there, and that will mean there will be 4 charging stations because there's 2 heads on each charger. That is being funded by a separate grant for this location, so we do expect that this project's moving along well, should be completed on time. Hartford Avenue Inlet to Cape May Inlet Beach and Dune Construction. We were informed that this project will take place in 2025. The borough has no cost share for this coastal storm protection project. We are now working with the Army Corps, and shortly we'll be working with them to get easements for the borough area and the construction area. All of the beaches in the Crest are owned by the Crest. They are Green Acres property, but we don't have issues of private beaches, which would impact the easements. The plans for this project, I have the 65% plans here in my office. They are also on the Philadelphia Army Corps District website, and you can also get a summary of the project there. It tells you really good information about the project itself. The New Jersey Avenue project, the Cape May County has been informed that they've been approved for funding for this roadway diet project. Bob Church will be requesting a meeting with us in the very near future to discuss the infrastructure improvements that the borough will have to do in advance of that road diet project. Sunset Lake Channel dredging. The right-of-way team in the state of New Jersey is currently negotiating with a landowner for the acquisition of a CDF, that's a confined disposal facility or a place to put the dredge materials. Permitting efforts have already begun by DOT for this 2-phase project, and our phase, the Wildwood Crest phase, is expected to commence in about a year once permits are in hand and the acquisition has taken place. CAFR applications. We had 10 individual applications we needed for the upcoming bulkhead improvement projects along the west side of our town. They were approved by NJDP and they were approved with comments, so the borough will be addressing those. Our engineer is developing plans for this project currently. Bayside Pump Station Flood Mitigation Project. The borough has made application for $12 million to FEMA's BRIC program for this project. This project, if funded, would include 2 pump stations and all necessary piping improvements. We have requested that Congressman Van Drew support this project for funding. The Washington Avenue flood mitigation, similar story. We did ask for congressional funding for this project and applied to FEMA for flood mitigation grant for this one. This area was previously studied by our engineer, and the recommendations from that study are the basis for the mitigation efforts. It will include 1 pump station located close to the beach. Federal fiscal year 2023 DCA Small Cities Grant, we were awarded a grant for $342,000 for bathroom improvements here in this building, and our engineer is currently working on that. The Cape May County Local Road Safety Plan, in cooperation with the South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization, the county is coordinating with local municipalities to identify and prioritize strategies to reduce fatal and serious injury crashes throughout Cape May County. It's also a local county roadway project as well as a county local roadway county project. I attended a virtual meeting today. It was a stakeholder meeting. Another one will be held next Wednesday, February 29th at 1 for stakeholders or anyone interested. Today's meeting was very informative, and they did do a lot of polling on different infrastructure improvements that would help to reduce any fatal crashes or serious injury crashes. And that's all I have.
Okay, governing body, any questions for our administrator?
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Thank you.
Public, any questions for Connie? Anybody on the conference line, any questions on the administrator's report? Hearing none, we'll go right to engineering.
Okay, thank you. The contractor for the reconstruction of Orchid Road has completed the installation of the water main and is approximately 85% complete to sanitary sewer. At this juncture, all is going well, and that roadway should be completed before the start of the summer season. The contractor for the Beach Patrol Headquarters renovation project has completed the roofing installation and is currently working on installing the siding, and we are hopeful we've turned the bend here to the finish line. To add to what Connie had mentioned earlier, the contractor for the Crest Arts Pavilion has completed site demolition. He's currently grading and filling the site and installing the electrical infrastructure for the site as well. So far, so good, on target for completion before the summer. Similarly, the contractor for the Beach Street Ends project, Phase 3, it was made abundantly clear at the last pre-construction meeting 2 weeks ago that this shall be done within 100 days, and they have committed to that schedule. The Bayside bulkhead replacement and flood mitigation project is 85% complete. As Connie had mentioned, we have the DEP permits in hand for the bulkhead replacement, and we are scheduled to publicly bid the project in the spring of this year. I believe tomorrow morning we have a meeting at our office with the manufacturer of the valving equipment in the borough, so that the borough can see the equipment, understand how to operate it, know what kind of equipment is needed to operate it, because it's gonna be a new venture for you. So we're getting you updated and up to speed on that equipment. With the approval today, the 2024 resurfacing project, we'll start designing that immediately tomorrow. That will be completed in time for the start of the summer season. We'll hopefully, that all those roads will be paved by mid-May. And lastly, with the approval tonight, we'll be filing the NJDOT Local Transportation Project Fund grant application for the reconstruction of Stockton Avenue. We'll probably have that submitted to the DOT successfully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's our hope, that we can grab anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 for the borough. That is my report.
Okay, going by, questions from Mr. de Blasio?
Mark, just a quick question, on our resolution 18 for the, Ocean Avenue,
Yes.
Rambler to Farragut, repaving that, when is that due? Is that mid-May? You said it'd be
That-
finished?
That should be done before, way before mid-May. So that's a tack on to the Orchid Road contract. So it's our hope that they'll be done before mid-May.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I got.
Okay, public, any questions on the engineer's report? Conference line, anybody? Questions on the engineer's report? Okay, we're gonna move right to discussion items under new business, street openings ordinance. So kind of parlaying off of the milling and paving work that's gonna be done before the summer. So in driving around the Crest, I noticed a lot of inconsistencies, so to speak, in some of the street openings and the restoration of the roadway, particularly on some of the blocks that developers have really built new houses or condos and so forth. So I asked Mark to review the borough's ordinance, and in a meeting with finance also realized that our fee structure is probably updated. So I had asked Mark to kind of dive into some of the details, primarily to look at fee structure, process, paving limits, and particularly, blocks or larger projects that developers are opening up our streets and not putting it back, the way that it was. So we had changed it. I think the last time we amended this was some small amendments, but the last major, I think, was probably somewhere on around like 2012, 13-ish, somewhere in there. So it's probably about 10 years old, so I think our ordinance is outdated. So if the governing body's okay with it, I think he had put a sample ordinance in our packet, but would like the borough for us to consider diving in some of those details and cleaning up and tightening up our street openings. Mark, feel free to.
Yeah, so just to add to how we arrived here, I think the genesis of this was, when the mayor rides around, I get phone calls sometimes, and there's a process for installing curb, sidewalk, and driveway that should be tightened up here in the borough. So if an applicant that goes to the planning or the combined board gets an approval, there's a process to bond for that improvement, to inspect it, there's plans submitted, and it's clear. But if somebody is putting in curb, sidewalk, or driveway and does not go through that process, I think it kind of fell on the construction office, and I don't think you have a clear process of how that's handled. how to prescribe the grades that the curb should go in, details, et cetera, on how that should be done. So that sample ordinance cleans all that up, so that helps you establish a process for what's devoid, increase your fees, and it actually adds some new technology into the mix, like infrared paving, should you allow somebody to cut the road open under moratorium, that we could, as a condition of approval, if you so choose to give it, to make them infrared the road and actually bake that restoration so it melds in.
Okay. Very good. So, going by, are we okay with diving into these details? Or, Mark, do you think, between you and Ron and Connie and Trish and everybody has to lay their hands on, is next meeting too early, or is it following meeting?
Both ordinances, sample ordinances were sent to the governing body, so if there's any comments, if we can get them back, then we'll sit and work out the details based on what you guys want to do.
And I think it's a pretty comprehensive
I can
ordinance.
resend those if you need.
It's a pretty comprehensive ordinance. I think the only thing you have to pay attention to is, when do you want to require a full-blown permit for sidewalk replacement? So if a homeowner who's responsible to maintain their sidewalk has a panel or two that needs to be replaced, you want to encourage them to do that, right? You don't want to have to go through all the red tape. But if they're wholesale replacing all of their curbing or all of their sidewalk on the frontage, that probably rises to the level of a permit. So I think you just need to look at what that threshold is, what's reasonable for your community.
So so based on this meeting and conversation, is there a way you could do a draft? Can you kind of merge, I'll take the best of all and kind of put together a
That's
draft
what you
and
have.
then,
That's
what you
it.
have.
that's what we have?
That's what you
Mhm.
have.
It's in the bottom.
On the sample one?
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you said you drafted a whole ordinance, all right, so you're basically using the sample that you put here, putting it into in the Wild Crest format.
Right, so I would just pay attention to that one provision, because if someone's has a panel into a sidewalk that's in bad shape, you would encourage them
Yeah,
to.
I'm sorry, which section was that again?
That would be, I don't have it right in front of me, it's under the curb and sidewalk section.
Right there under that one?
Under that section.
So are you saying we can get back together 2 weeks and try to iron it
Yeah,
out, so we have a roadmap to go by?
Yeah, I think what I'm saying is that that's pretty comprehensive, and I think, in my opinion, that's what you wanna look at. There isn't anything major in there that's controversial, but I would just call your attention to that.
That's what you want to redline.
You wanna
If you
look-
see
you
something
wanna
and they're
look
not
at that.
comfortable with it, redline it, send it
I
back.
mean, not unless you wanna get into like asphalt thickness, but, you can do that.
Maybe we could have a sidebar about that.
That's some asphalt, okay.
I discussed this with Rick, and I'm fine with it as is, so, I mean, I'll definitely go over once again in the next 2 weeks, but as of right now, I think it's long overdue, so I'm fine with it.
But, yeah, I think it takes a little bit of a burden off of them.
All right, so, what's the next meeting, 21st?
March 6th.
March 6th?
It's 2 weeks. Morning meeting.
March 6th. It's probably a little too early for
We
that
go
one.
to the second one.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's go, let's try to go. with
which
the
would be the 27th. There's 3 weeks in between.
And just to give you the lineage on the ordinance comes from Stone Harbor. It's now I believe gonna be adopted in the city of Wildwood, so you have, coastal, local commonality there.
March 27th, all right, so that's,
They just introduced that right, last week, I believe.
They're going to next meeting.
all right, so how about we, start, take a look at the draft that we have in our packets and submit them to, who wants to take the point? Give them to Connie, and then Connie do it tomorrow.
That's fine.
2 weeks, good? 2 weeks it is. All right, that wraps up under new business, under old business, lot at Rosemary and Seaview. So just following up on this, I think the only, what we were looking for was a discussion on, is there any taxes the borough may need, will be hit with?
No.
I think the answer was no, right? Just confirming, nothing on that.
That's correct.
So I guess the question is, does the borough want to move forward with, that lot at Rosemary Seaview? We did approve at the last meeting the removal of some shrubbery and leveling out some debris and so forth that's been there for a while, getting complaints from the neighbors, and it's basically becoming public works nuisance, but at the end of the day, you know, this probably has a better value with tax revenue coming back to the borough and stay as a single-family house. So the question is, does the borough want to move forward with a bid process, sealed bid process, or open bid, however we want to determine that, to put it back on the market or not?
The only thing that I asked for was to designate that money to a certain area that we, you know, that we get from this building, or from the lot, I mean. I don't have a problem one way or the other to sell it, because we don't need another park, and it's not designated for that. So, I'd like to move forward with it. I think it's the right time to sell.
My only concern was if we got hit with any capital gains tax on that, and since it was gifted, and Francine and Mr. Galzinas told me no, so that was my only hang up with that, so I don't have any issue with moving forward with that. I do agree, it is probably a good time to capitalize on that property, so not an issue for me.
All right, so, would it be okay to suggest if, you know, is earmarking that money towards an open space preservation enhancement, you know, whether it be a park or something like that?
I think it should go in some sort of a general fund, so we can use it for things that we need, capital. Capital would be where I would like to, but I mean, that's up for discussion.
Well, it just basically go into surplus then.
Otherwise, it would just go into surplus, that is correct, if you don't designate it. You could do a resolution to designate it, to a specific purpose, or even a general purpose.
Yeah, you could do a couple of purposes within that resolution, but you would have to define what you want to do.
Fine, I mean, I would be good with that.
Yeah, so we can have like conversations on what exactly you wanna define.
Because the public needs to know we're not selling that because we need
Sure.
funds.
Mhm.
We're doing it now's the time, and we have that property.
And you can spread it out over years too, so you don't have to, but you don't have to spend it all in 1 year, you can gradually do it.
Yeah, so just to be clear, so
Dedicate a certain amount per
if the
year.
borough would receive the proceeds of the sale itself, of the lot itself, then whoever buys it and builds on it, the tax revenue, because right now we get zero,
Correct.
right? So I think it's a good
And we're
business
maintaining
decision
it.
for certain, first of all, instead of putting out money to maintain it. Okay, all right, so then I think as far as the dedicating it to whatever, I think
We can hash it out.
you guys come up with
Put
something and put
finance.
something out in front and then
Yeah.
go from there. All right, now question is it gonna be an open, a sealed bid, or is it gonna be a little bid?
I got a question about that. So what advantages do we have for one way or another? Sealed bids, nobody know anything, open bid, we're going against each other, correct?
Last time we did an auction type thing, only one bidder showed up. But sealed bids, I think, are typically the way we do things for contracts and whatnot. And you can, you know, submit a bid, you're halfway across the country, you know, you don't have to.
So we have a
actually
bottom
show up.
line of what we'll accept and then anything
A
above.
minimum.
Right, we can set a minimum reserve price.
Mhm.
And if we don't get a bid that's that or more than that, then we don't have to sell.
So being our professional here, what's your opinion? Which way should we go?
It's easier, I think, and cleaner and less chance for any type of mishap if you have a sealed bid.
And I'll second that. I like that
The
idea.
auctions
too.
can kind of get confusing, and then someone has to run them, and we looked into these folks that run these
And it's
auctions.
expensive,
Well,
unless
and
you do
then
it
they
in-house.
take-
Yeah.
they take
And then
a
it's a lot of
6%.
Yeah,
I take
unless
a
you
lot.
do it with your tax collector or you
Right.
do it in-house, and then it, you know, like last time when we had one person.
I actually went through that when we had the building lots for Philip Baker, and we put them out to bid, and it was a live one, it was tough. So I think the seal, I'm for the sealed ones.
Okay, sealed bids, good?
Yeah, no, that was fine with me.
Sealed bid it is, and it's just a question on the minimum bid. I think we had a recommendation from our tax assessor. So I think we should just
Talk about that. if
revisit
we-
that.
I can
and
revisit that and send it to you.
We'll allow our professionals to do the homework and let us know what their thoughts are, and we go from there.
Is what we state, do we start off at like 500,000 or 500 million? I just forget.
In the crash?
Yeah. That's good.
All right,
Thank
okay.
you.
Moving forward on that, concession agreement is on hold pending on the outcome of the Army Corps PEP Dune traffic calming We had, so the last meeting was the meeting before that, we had approved phase one of an engineering, study. Haven't heard anything more on that. Back beach excavation is on hold pending again, the dune project. Anything on dredging?
Just that they are, the right-of-way team for the state has reached out to a property owner, and they are negotiating for property to create or to, have a place to put the beneficial use material.
Okay.
So they're working on that now. We should be hearing something soon.
Gotcha. New Jersey Ed Infrastructure pre-county, that's, so we received word from the county that they are planning on doing, New Jersey Avenue from Cressy to Rambler. So we have our homework that we need to do there in preparation before they start that project. Public Works roof is on hold. We have just authorized tonight, through the co-op contract to do the crest pier roof, as well as the flat roof that holds the mechanicals, of the pool.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
If you can help me out with it. Ralph is saying he's in public safety part of the building. Is there any way we can get some sort of coating up there? I mean, he's getting some major water in there. In fact, I think he was complaining that there was water dripping down the electrical panel, and he was concerned. So we could look into that just a little bit, maybe have Steve take a look at it.
Yeah, so I think that's a flat roof in there. So it's
Yeah, it's
temporary-
definitely flat.
Yeah, temporary repair.
Just a
probably
patch.
get through there, because that roof is going to be replaced in total, probably after the summer.
Yeah, he was very concerned about it.
All right.
I'd appreciate it.
Outfall lines, Bayfall outfall lines, capacity, bulkheads, all that good stuff. Mark covered that pretty well in his report. Permits have been submitted, so we're good there. And just tomorrow's a valve. I think hopefully between now and the summertime, we'll hear about the pump station application, not in full steam ahead. Washington Seaview, beach outfalls and capacity, that's the same thing. We're still waiting for Mr. Rotola to get back to us on that. Okay, last round of public comments. We'll start with anybody here in the audience.
Joe Scoby. I want to bring up the Rosemary and Seaview lot issue, and actually last time that just came up, I didn't say anything, I wish I had, so now it's up again. You literally just said that you were gonna sell an open lot, and then one of the things was get the money and use it for open space. I mean, I don't know if you realized that was one of the proposals. Why don't we leave it as open space and maybe get funding to buy that from the town? I don't know how you could do that, but we talk about open spaces. I don't live anywhere near it, so it's not like I'm benefiting from that lot. It's one of the few open lots. And we're literally, I mean, did you realize, Donna, you said that to take money from the sale of that to use for open space project?
So this lot is in the residential neighborhood.
Yeah, I know, yep.
Right, so there's houses all around it.
Yeah.
So to just keep it open and just keep it open it's not gonna be a park or anything like that.
I understand, but when you go in that Seaview, it's one of the last open areas. So I would get rid of that shrub in that corner, clean that up, and just have it as grass, it's open space, it's water. If a house goes on there, you're gonna lose the impervious cover right now. When it rains, the water stays on that lot. And just leave it as open space. That was the intent of the open space projects and funding, was to have open spaces in areas that are turning into cities.
Right, so just to go back, this lot was given to the borough years ago.
Right.
So, it's passed, the deed restrictions are now passed. The lot sits in a residential neighborhood, just not gonna be a park or playground equipment or anything
Yes,
like that. So-
it's the one next to the house they tore down.
It's really more of a business decision as to, okay,
Yeah.
so you sell the lot, you can use the money towards other things, for other projects and preservation of open space, if that's what we wanna use it for, or to other financial commitments that the borough has. But the tax revenue back to the borough, right now, there's nothing there. So if we're looking for miscellaneous revenues to help keep taxes stable, tax ratables and all that is where it's at.
But I guess I'm saying is that it is open space. I know that it can't be used for anything, but I mean, we laughed at we didn't want to tear down the library and develop that whole area because we felt that was open space, and it's open space. So once that gets sold, there's a house gonna go there, and it's gonna get covered, and it's open space. And again, that whole intersection it's open space, that we're gonna lose another 80 by 80 lot to development and apparently we're doing good financially, so it's not like we need the money.
Well, so I think, so the open space, so the parks and the library project, these are all oceanfront
Yeah.
projects. So if this could be, if we were to stick a park there, that'd be one thing. But again, it's just gonna have, I think it has other uses and financial benefits, and it's a business decision,
Okay.
really what it comes down to.
But I'm relaying you what I hear. I'm relaying you not just my opinion, but we talk about saving open space and not developing, and then it just seems like it's gonna be another 80 by 80 or 80 by 120 lot, roughly, I forget how it is.
100 by 100.
100 by 100 lot that could, at this point, help flood mitigation, because every square foot that gets developed, anything that gets approved by the planning board works against our flood mitigation. So that's my thought is, and I just think, to say that we're gonna get rid of an open space and then get the 600,000 or X amount of dollars from that and then spend on an open space project when we actually have. And unless the people are complaining about it, and to cut that grass, I know the public works are great and excellent, and I mean, they've run through that in about 10 minutes probably so, just my thought was, we have open space. We don't necessarily need the money. It sounds like that we're doing good. The tax revenues from all these projects where they tore down that house right next to it is gonna be 3 new homes, and probably $1 million plus homes. So we have open space. And I know that when we have elections, I'm gonna relay it into public opinion. We have elections, all the people that are running walk around and ask for everybody's thoughts, and they introduce themselves. Sometimes I feel that maybe as we farther away from elections, we lose that. And I would question, what do the residents want, not just the next door neighbors? What would they want? Would they like to leave that as open space? And when we have an outcry of people voicing their opinion, and then it seems like we don't listen to them, that's the reason why people feel that. And I'm saying that in general, because there's been a couple meetings where there's been a large outcome of people, and then it just doesn't go anywhere. So I would just question whether we keep that ground. We don't technically need that money. Value usually goes up, obviously, and we've had some dips. So I just feel we have open space, we should leave it as open space.
Point noted.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Michael Garrick. On the same topic, I am all in favor of leaving that as the lot that it currently is. I completely agree. We don't have any financial need for it right now. And if you guys decide that you still want to sell it, I would strongly suggest that it be deed restricted for a single family home.
It is.
That's the way it is.
Okay, all right, that's it.
And it can't be subdivided, the lot.
Unless it goes to the planning board and then got it.
Anybody else? Anybody on the conference line? Hearing none, I'm gonna right to commissioner comments before we adjourn.
I'll be quick. I just wanted to highlight, we did introduce the budget tonight, so I wanted to say thank you to the finance department and all the department heads. After taking a deep dive into this budget, I think the ROI is excellent. So I think what the taxpayers are getting in return is fantastic. Maybe some don't agree with that tonight, but my opinion, I think it's a great budget, and it's a tough time. But Joe, to kind of piggyback what you said, we are in financial, we're doing pretty well, but we don't have a crystal ball. So I think the opinion to sell that lot right now at this very moment is a good business decision, my opinion. So to have that money potentially moving forward is a good business decisions, so. So I think the budget right now, I think we're doing pretty well. So I just wanna say thank you to all the department heads and, the finance department as well.
I gotta agree. Well said. Good department upstairs, keeps it tight, says no to me quite a few times. It's a strong budget, and it's hard with these rising costs to keep everything intact for us. You know, it's just tough. And I'm a taxpayer here, just like all of you. And, you did a great job, and I appreciate it from the departments.
Okay, so, if we're talking about the budget, so, thanks to all the department heads and to the finance staff and everyone that had their hands on the budget. I will say that, you know, one of the reasons why, as we look into the deeper dive, and to Joe Franco's point, I should say, looking ahead, you don't have a crystal ball, and you start, you know, you see some trends that you're, you know, for example, Wildwood Crest has a very strong surplus. We want to maintain that surplus. So one of the reasons one way we can do that, although we don't need it right now, is to get rid of a lot that's costing the borough money as opposed, and has additional opportunity for ratables of money coming in to help keep things stable. We're able to do that. We have other, you know, we have very good miscellaneous revenues. These beach boxes that you see on the beach have such a benefit to Wildwood Crest, you have no idea. So it's a lot of money so people are getting a chance to enjoy the beach box, but to us that live here and pay taxes here, that has such a benefit and a value back to keep things stable. All around us, you see things going up. You can't go out and buy groceries, you can't go out to dinner, you do all these things without paying something like 5 years ago was a lot less than what it is right now. Well, borough's expenses are no different. If we have a great staff in this community, our staff could leave here tomorrow and go somewhere else and get paid more. We would rather have our staff and maintain them here. So 50% of our increases are gonna be based on, you know, costs to maintain, you know, a good staff. The other 50% are things that we can't even control, that are handed down to us by the state. We're doing so many great projects. You look around at the parks, the roadways, and all the things that are going on. You're getting such a value to what you're paying here. And I talk to people from North Jersey and Pennsylvania, and they say, "What's your taxes in Wildwood Crest, and how much did it go up?" That's it. They think that our taxes are low. So, so I just want to keep things in perspective, keep it real. As things go up, so does our budget have to go up. But our budget is lean as it can be. You're still going to be able to see projects going on, and I think that we have an eye towards the future to keep the borough in a good position, so that for those of us here and those of us who, you know, as other folks buy in here, they can keep things as stable as possible. So thank you to everybody there, and hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day, and that's all I have for the good of the order.
I did want to add one last thing. Condolences to Jordan Carino, who was our city solicitor for a number of years, just passed away recently last week. So my thoughts, and I believe Joe and Don and everybody up here will agree that it was tough. So I just want to pass our condolences to the Carino family.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. 6:23.